Hello and welcome to the MJ News Digest Special Report. This one is dedicated to the rumours about a new Michael Jackson album dropping this year. We're going to look at those rumours and see if there's any truth there and find out where those rumours started. But more importantly, we're going to look at the album that was going to be released in 2020 and why there's a very good chance it could actually be released in the next 6 months. Now, as Michael fans, we are thirsty for any new music. It's been 7 years since we've had an album of original songs released, and that was, of course, Escape. And although we'd already heard most of the songs before, it was great to have the demo versions together in one package. Now, no new Michael Jackson album release can ever compare to the albums released during his lifetime. The last time we experienced that was 20 years ago with Invincible, an album that still divides fans to this day. But if we look at Michael's release schedule during his lifetime, typically Michael released an album on average, say, every 4 to 5 years. Now, I doubt there's enough material in the vault for the estate to release an album once every even 8 years, although I do think there's a lot more material there than the estate are letting on. Back in 2018, the estate said there would be no more full-length Michael Jackson albums. But remember, back in 1987, Michael Jackson himself said the Bad Tour was going to be his last ever tour. It's good marketing, but it's frustrating for all of us waiting for new music. Every so often there's rumours about a new album, but those rumours really picked up last year. It was around October time, with a screenshot of a proposed track listing and release date. Twitter was on fire. We all wanted it to be true. Those of us with YouTube channels, we dedicated videos to this mysterious screenshot. And I remember talking about this in a previous MJ News Digest, and most of you felt it was all a load of bollocks, but there was a good deal of wishful thinking too. Let's take a quick look at that track listing. So as we can see, there's 9 tracks which would fit with the length of albums released after Michael's death. Most of the tracks listed were abbreviated, which gave weight to the fact that this could be genuine, as if to keep the fans guessing should this have been leaked. There was also a date of 14th of August 2020, but was that the date that this track listing was compiled, or was it a proposed release date? Well, once this track listing leaked, we had actually gone past August. But it also showed the MJJ Productions logo and various music publishing companies, so that kind of gave more weight that perhaps this was true. And it was also watermarked with copyright DMA-MJ Leaker, but no one knew who this was. There were no social media accounts for this name. So where did this screenshot originate from? Well, it was first posted from the account Greatest Artist of All Time. The first tweet told us that new MJ music was coming, the second tweet said expect leaks, and the third was a track listing. And then nothing. There were no leaks and there was no new album. As exciting as it was to see this track listing of unreleased MJ music, I very much doubt this was genuine. I want it to be, but if a new album was going to be released, we wouldn't be finding out this way. 5 months later, and fans are still sharing this track listing on Twitter expecting a new album. And although I think we could get a new album this year, it probably won't be the album you're hoping for. So at the beginning of this video, I mentioned an album that should have been released last year. No, I'm not talking about History 25. According to the estate, COVID put paid to that. But I do think COVID had a lot to do with why this new album wasn't released last year. Now, before I get into what this new album is and even the title of the album, I just want you to think about how the estate have handled the MJ album releases since his death. So let's have a look at This Is It. This Is It was the first album, obviously it was a tie-in with the upcoming movie. The title track, previously titled I Never Heard and recorded with Paul Anka, was renamed to This Is It, which was another good marketing strategy. The estate would have you believe that Michael changed the title himself and was set to release the song as a single to coincide with the tour of the same name. Now I, along with many others, called bullshit on this. As lovely as the song is, there's no way a mid-paced and, I'm sorry, boring song using decades-old vocals would have been released to promote the tour to end all tours. When the Immortal World Tour was announced, the estate released the soundtrack to promote the tour. When the Scream the album was released, the estate created really what was a dubious Halloween playlist to coincide with Michael Jackson's Halloween, the TV special that never really was. The point I'm trying to make here is that the estate typically put out new Michael Jackson music to promote an existing venture. Only twice since 2009 have the estate released an album on its own merit. They were Michael and Escape. Although one could argue that Michael the album was released to ride the wave of the outpouring of grief and respect for Michael Jackson following his unexpected and untimely death. So what new venture was set for release last year? Something that COVID did actually affect. Well, it was MJ the Musical. So would the estate have planned to release a new album of unreleased Michael Jackson songs during the same time period when a brand new Broadway Michael Jackson jukebox musical debuted? Of course not. But I think they were planning on releasing the soundtrack album of the musical. Makes sense, right? Well, last year I came across this, and I haven't shared this before on MJ News Digest, but it shows that the soundtrack to MJ the Musical would have been released digitally on Broadway Records just prior to the musical's original opening, which makes sense. Broadway albums are released before opening night. What's curious though is that according to this listing, the album was going to be released on Broadway Records. So who are they? Well, they're a record company specialising in releasing soundtracks to Broadway musicals. But why wouldn't this album be released on Sony? Well, because it's a cast recording, it's not Michael Jackson. It would be the cast versions of whatever Michael Jackson songs are going to be included. So with the musical now opening in September of this year, could this MJ the Musical soundtrack album be the new Michael Jackson album to be released this year? Well, I think it's much more likely than the unreleased track listing that's being shared around Twitter. Don't get me wrong, I would love a proper new album this year, but I think this musical soundtrack is the closest we're going to get. I'm sorry, what do you think? Do you agree? Would Sony and the estate release a new album of unreleased songs during the same year as MJ the Musical? Or could a brand new Michael Jackson album be released to help promote the musical? Are you going to buy the soundtrack to MJ the Musical? Let me know in the comments below.